Thank you. I'm fine. It's a little cool in Philadelphia today. But thanks for having me, Summers and Christy. This is exciting for us. I have two of them. Everly is 7 and Renly is 4. And they moved recently to Costa Rica with their parents, of course. I've been to visit them a couple of times. It's a wonderful place for them to live. And yeah, part of their motivation is all of the conflict and issues that we're having in the US, and they wanted their daughters to have a, a, a happier childhood. So, but Right. Well, the fundamental reasons I'd say are my granddaughters, of course, and there I take the longer view about what their adult lives will look like. As you were saying, a lot of this is going to unfold gradually over time. Um, I'm also concerned with the short term for people of my age, because the health threats, affect elders right now. And, many of us who are boomers will still be around in 20 years. And at that time, things will be worse and we will be more vulnerable. So, elders right now are experiencing heat death during some of the heat waves, and it's terrible in the cities. Air pollution kills more people than COVID has, especially older people. Then you think about the wildfires and these weather catastrophes, like you had, Summers. And elderly people are less mobile. They can't readily be evacuated when they need to be. So it's dangerous now for elders. It's going to get worse as we become more vulnerable. So that's a big issue. Though it was really my granddaughters that motivated me to decide I had to take action. And it was a book, actually, that I read. It was started as an article, which then became a book by the same title called The Uninhabitable Earth. Um, I recommend it with a warning that it is alarming. The author's David Wallace Wells. I read his article that, was a precedent to the book. And it persuaded me that climate change threats are not remote. It's not about glaciers and rising sea levels. It's about food shortages and water shortages, and we will experience those here in the US. It will be everywhere. Yes, it's right. Yes. So drought, drought in the Southwest means that we can't grow the crops. We won't be able to grow the crops that we're accustomed to having, and at the same time, around the globe, there will be crop failures. So food prices rise. And children go hungry around the world. Drought also means drinking water shortages. And we'll see in the Southwest, when the water supply can't support the population, the poorest people will have to migrate. Within the United States, we will have climate refugees, and that will create conflict. So, food, water, and war are, I think, the grave dangers that I worry about for my granddaughters and for all of us. Right. So, yeah, my favorite topic. We at ECA, we don't believe that, for example, individual lifestyle changes are what's needed. That's not activism. Um, the things we all are doing now, turning off the lights when we leave the room, or eating less meat. That's insignificant for ending carbon emissions at the scale that we have to. Um, I think it's important. Of course, we all are trying to do those things, but as you do them, it's important to think about the bigger issues that lie behind those. So, for example, let's eat less meat is really about industrial agriculture and how much damage it does to the planet. So, yeah, eat less meat, but realize that the bigger issue that is going to require collective action is industrial agriculture, and the degradation of the soils, recycling plastics as we watch our bins fill up with plastics. Recycling isn't the point. The point is we need to stop making this stuff. Right. So we urge collective, not individual action. And collective action doesn't just mean protests and marches, it means pressure campaigns. It means all of us together reaching out to our representatives in Congress or in state or local legislatures and sending them the same message all at once. That's how we make a difference. So there's something interesting that I like to talk about on the issue of collective action, and that's the 3.5% rule. I just came across it recently, and it's a consensus among many sociologists who say that any movement, any national movement that engages at least 3.5% of its population will never fail to bring about the change they demand. So you think about Gandhi and you think about Dr. King. If 3.5% of the population of a country stands together on an issue, things will change. Elders alone, are the boomer generation, elders over 65 are 16% of the US population. So we are the guys. Yeah. Yes. No, we can make this happen. And I do not want to suggest that the young people are not doing an amazing job. And it's perplexing to me why more seniors aren't out there with them. Yeah, we're the pig moving through the boa constrictor. Well, right. So, yeah, there are a lot of us. We need to bring out the our generation in big numbers. So we're 16% of the population. That's the folks over 65. So, a lot of people in their 50s consider themselves elders or seniors or nearing retirement. Um, we There are 53 million people over age 65 in the US. Our generation holds considerable wealth. Plenty of elders are not wealthy and, are struggling. But AARP, the Association of Retired People, reports that if American elders were their own country, it would be the world's third largest economy. We have money, and that's some power, at least donate, if not get to work making change in your community. Put your money to use. We are the largest US voting bloc, and we vote. Politicians pay attention to what we want. We've got some free time, we've got some wisdom. Many of us have a sense of responsibility. So if we came out in large numbers, um, it would transform everything. Yeah, I was kind of afraid you would ask. Um, no, and I shouldn't say that. I mean, the people I work with at Elders Climate Action, are so inspiring. And I'll give you my list for why we're optimistic. But we're also, we struggle to get the attention of folks our age. And it's understandable to me that at our age, as you get to be older, you sort of would like to take a break. You'd like to retire. You feel like you've done enough. You've raised your children. I think a lot of boomers are not climate deniers, but they just don't feel like changing their habits, the way they've lived. But the fact is that our generation has gotten wealthy because of fossil fuels. We've had a booming economy through our adult lives that has given us wealth that really is taken from the next generations to follow. And the costs that young people will pay to remediate climate change will be staggering. So the kids know this. Elders need to, kind of face this, I think. I'd also say that when you start thinking about climate change, it's so complex because it affects everything and it comes from everything we do. And you sort of feel like, I don't know where to begin. It's overwhelming. So I think I'll do nothing. Um, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Right. Well, I would say first of all that to the extent that people feel like they don't have the expertise or the skills to get involved on any issue, climate change or anything else, it's not skills or expertise that we need. It's numbers, and so there are ways to help even if you kind of don't feel you've mastered all the issues. We at Elders Climate Action, we have an elders promote the vote. So we have, groups of elders that are working to turn out voters for the next elections coming up. We have special programs that you can get involved with to learn. But at a minimum, the thing that we all need to be doing is talking about climate change to everybody we encounter. Um, the grocery store clerk, the mailman. 3 of 4 Americans say that they never hear anyone talking about climate change in their day to day lives. And so, well, it's true, and you have different amounts of time available to you. I think as you think about it, you have to have your elevator speech for when you just are in the line at the supermarket and the person in front of you brings up the weather. Weather is always an easy segue to talking about climate change and the fact that you're a grandmother and you're very concerned, um, or you work in an industry, that's impacted by climate change. So, and then there are the longer conversations sitting around with your neighbors where you really get a chance to talk about the things we've just been saying, like, what are the threats? Why am I a climate activist? I introduce myself as a full-time climate activist to anyone I meet, and I wear my t-shirts, that that are always climate messages, and people always ask. And it gives me a chance, at least I'm addressing that problem of 75% of Americans saying they never hear anyone talking about it. I talk about it all the time. Hmm. Yes. And thank you for asking that question. It's a really important point that spouting statistics at people is and alarmist, data is just not going to help us. But nature, most people share a love for nature in some form, whether it's butterflies or the woods near their house. And, talking about nature and talking about the grief that you feel about what we're losing. Um, everyone, I think, can point to damage that they can see in their neighborhood, whether it's just the harsher heat or the loss. You don't see butterflies anymore. When I was a kid, there were butterflies everywhere, and that gives us grief. We at ECA always talk about how we're grieving for what's yet to be lost, but what we know we will lose. But then acting on it is the best comfort for your grief. Doing something about it is a balm, I think. And yeah, it's important to talk about that. I yeah. Well, and just to talk about another kind of day to day conversation that you can have. So, the area that we're focused on at the moment, what climate activists consider the highest priority for action, where we can accomplish the most in reducing emissions, is in transportation. Um, that accounts for about a third of the total US emissions. And the technology is there to transform our transportation sector. We have electric vehicles, but children are riding diesel fueled school buses. It's a no brainer that every school district be funded to buy electric school buses so that children can ride in healthy buses. Oh, for sure. The best way to get started as an activist is find an organization. It might be a national organization like Elders Climate Action, eldersclimateaction.org. Go online and look. But there are plenty of local organizations that you might want to get involved with too. And local action is often more motivating and it feels more immediate for people. So the school buses, influencing your local government to build more bike paths or have a bike share program, those sorts of things. So you can find an organization in your community if that's where you feel most comfortable starting, and just go online or ask around and sign up and then show up. We all have to start showing up and doing what we can. What addressing the thing that makes us most angry. um, Yeah, absolutely. 70% of Americans are concerned about climate change. So people are concerned. They just need to decide to do something about it. We're optimistic that the numbers are there. The youth climate movement and the rise of indigenous leaders and faith-based organizations coming into the movement, it's a wonderful thing. Um, their technology advances every day. So, the answers are appearing almost as fast as we decide we need them. Um, and we're no longer hearing all the false information, or we're no longer falling for the false information from the fossil fuel industry about this isn't really a big problem, or you can solve this problem by recycling. So, Frontline, which is a PBS show, just has a new series on the power of big oil that is alarming, but it's good that media is getting in on the action. And I think taking action makes you more optimistic. Being with good people, working side by side with good people to make something better, it's the best thing you can do for your own health. At ECA, we have voting actions. There's an interesting new app called Climate Action Now. You can download it on your phone. It's only for phones. And it enables you to tweet and send emails just with clicking a button. You register, and it knows who your Congress representatives are, and then it sets you up to send this tweet. And so tens of thousands of people are sending the same messages. At ECA, we're working on, we have national calls every month. Health is our focus for April and May. Um, and um, and then, of course, there's collective action. Come out for marches. There'll be lots of them, I think, coming from the youth organizations this summer. This year is a critical year for everything we care about. There were Earth Day actions, yeah, all week. Yeah, thanks. It's been my pleasure.